Norman County West High School in Halstead, Minnesota will shut its doors this June.
That decision coming after a 3-hour board meeting this morning. As Valley News Team's Rose Itzkovitz tells us, the decision to do so was divided.
It was a room full of many different opinions and more confusion than many thought there should be after having more than a year to decide what to do with a high school in danger of closing.
Probably didn't handle all of the situations as well as we could. Being at odds, it would be very difficult to do that.
Last February, the Norman County West School District thought it had more than $400,000 deficit. But somehow, when the auditors did a report this past November, they found out they were actually more than $20,000 in surplus. But by then, 70 students had been pulled from the school, making the hypothetical deficit an actual issue.
One of the reasons that people left was because of the indecision from the board, and we heard that from many people saying that the indecision was enough to make them want to leave. So we had a major drop from last year to this year.
Now a decision needed to be made: either keep the high school open but move it in with the elementary school, or get rid of the high school and move all the students to Ada Borup, about 18 miles away. The board voted on a tuition agreement that will ultimately send the NCW high school students to Ada next year. Jeremy Melting's son is in 6th grade at NCW Elementary. He would have entered the high school next year. He says since the previous meeting in December, not enough information was given out to save the school.
But what we asked for at that community meeting was, what would it take to stay open? What would it take to be an as-is or take to be a single campus? And I was expecting to hear, you need this many number of students to make that happen, otherwise we'll be short X number of dollars. And then you as a community have to figure out how to raise that money, or we have to figure out how to cut that out of the operating budget.
Meanwhile, many parents have contacted us about this issue, blaming the superintendent, Dr. Sean Yates. They say he has a conflict of interest since he runs both NCW and Ada Borup schools. But Superintendent Yates maintains he just wants what's best for both schools. Is this kind of the direction you wanted to go in at this point?
You know, again, I came into today, I really had no idea on what the board was going to decide. I work at the will of the board, and you know, I've provided them information, and whatever decision it is that they made, I was prepared to move forward and do my best to ensure, again, what's best for our kids.
And even though board member Michael Holty says this was not what he wanted as a parent, he says Yates was put in a tough spot, working for both schools. In Halstead, Minnesota, Rose Itzkovitz, Valley News Live.
And we're told 12 teachers and other paraprofessionals will receive severance pay when the school closes. They'll be granted an interview to work for Ada Borup as well. The taxes will be raised for next year in order to pay for that.
Let the rivalry continue.
Yeah, we get to heat it up again already. One round done. We will get the final round of non-conference action between NDSU and UND on the basketball floor. We'll talk about it next in sports. For the final time as non-conference foes, the University of North Dakota and North Dakota State men's basketball teams will meet tonight at the Shields Center. Tonight's game marks the back end of a home-and-home series between the Bison and the Fighting Hawks. It doesn't mean anything for this year's conference standings or position for postseason play in conference tournaments, but Bison head coach Dave Richmond says it is a big game for a lot of reasons.
Most importantly, it's a big game because it's the next game on our schedule, the next game for us to continue to improve and progress.
We're going to have to play great defensively. Obviously, they're a great offensive team. They play fast. They're really good in transition. And it's one of those games that it's going to be a battle, and we know we're going to get their best.
The road team has dominated the series recently. 4 straight times the team taking the bus home has done so with a win, including a Bison win earlier this season in Grand Forks. NDSU holds the edge in the Division I era with 6 wins in the 9 meetings. Speaking of the Fighting Hawks, today UND President Mark Kennedy made it official with the introductory press conference of Bill Chaves as the school's 16th athletic director. Chaves comes to UND after serving as the athletic director at Eastern Washington University for the past 10 years. In his introductory press conference, he talked about his priorities for the student athletes and the department. Chaves takes over for Brian Faison, who retired at the end of last year.
Sounds good for them.
Sounds good for them, and it's good to have somebody in place there.
Good.
Still to come, we'll take another look at your evening weather planner with Hutch.
All right, we had a gorgeous sunset, and if you missed it, our Storm Team Skycam network here getting a great time lapse of the very colorful setting sun as temperatures will slowly fall for many early this evening, but then begin rising back into the single digits, even teens above by daybreak. The problem will be the wind causing that snow to drift over roads, and we'll maintain very slippery conditions both tonight and first thing in the morning. Fargo tomorrow, 26 and quite breezy with gusts over 25 miles per hour, and we're talking temperatures near 40 for Friday.
It's gonna feel good, yeah. Thanks for joining us.
See you at 10.